What's up, my Yu-Gi Bros? I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! In Business Casual. I'm sorry that I haven't made a video in almost a week. I've had some crazy things going on, including visiting a college and my power getting ripped out of my house. Anyway, so I'm finally making a video, and today I want to talk about consistency, because consistency is one of two ways of determining the quality of a deck. The other being power, which is basically just the potency of your win condition. Now, consistency can be measured in two ways, I suppose. It is the measure of how often your deck draws well and how rarely your deck draws poorly. There are decks that just come with some consistency issues, and there are basically three ways of improving on consistency issues. One way is great for combo decks, one way is great for basically every deck, and one way should be avoided like the plague. Let's start off with the combo one. So in more combo-based decks, oftentimes you have a kind of range of number of combo pieces that a card needs in order for it to function. Some cards need to go in combo with just one card, some cards need to go into combo with tons of cards, and often those cards that require more combo pieces in order to function are less consistent cards, because if you draw into multiples of them, you're less likely to be able to pull off your big combos. It tends that these combo pieces that require more fellow combo pieces tend to also be powerful, but if you reduce the ratio of those combo pieces to the combo pieces that require fewer other combo pieces in order to function, then your deck will be more consistent. That does reduce the power a little bit, but oftentimes these real power cards can be searched for in more combo-like decks. For instance, Mermails. In a Mermail deck, you don't want to run a ton of Abyss Leads, even though it's an incredibly powerful card, because it requires a lot of combo pieces in order for it to function. But Abyss Megalo or Abyss Lead is something that you may be able to play around with the ratios a little bit more to see if the deck will work functionally for you. Method number 2, and this is the most common method, is increase the number of cards that increase the consistency of your deck. Upstart Goblin is a really popular way of doing that. Pot of Duality is another great way of doing that, and there are basically search cards for almost every deck in the game at this point. I'm fairly certain every competitive deck in the game right now has some kind of search card that takes cards from your deck and puts them where you need them to be, whether that's on the field or in the graveyard or in your hand. Increasing the number of search cards in your deck also decreases the number of other kinds of good cards you can have in your deck, which means that you're either reducing the diversity of possible combos if you're running a combo-based deck because you just don't have enough room to increase those combo pieces, or you have to reduce the amount of back row in your deck, and that can also hurt your strategy depending on how fast a format is. However, for the most part, it is generally a good idea to use cards that increase the consistency of your deck if you possibly can. The final way that some people try to deal with consistency issues is absolutely terrible, and you should never do that, and that's adding cards to your deck that deal with bad hands. Cards that turn bad hands into less bad hands. And the reason why these cards are really awful, even though a lot of them seem really good at first, is because even though they make really, really bad hands slightly less bad, they make good hands bad for the most part. A prime example of this phenomenon is Evatile El Genero. People thought that it was going to be great because when they read this, they're like, oh, this is great in case I draw into Evilsars. The problem with El Genero is that it is only useful in the instance that you draw poorly, in which you draw multiple Evilsars and you don't want to. Otherwise, if you draw a perfectly good hand, it's sitting there as a dead card, because you're not going to summon an El Genero if you could summon your Najasho or your Westlow. So El Genero is a prime example of a card that you put in your deck just to deal with bad hands that actually makes good hands worse. So if in the future you're making a deck and you're thinking this deck is not consistent enough, good things to do include changing the ratio so that you need fewer combo pieces in your hand at a time in order for the deck to function. Adding cards that increase the consistency of your deck is another really great option. What you should not do is look for cards that can deal with when you draw bad hands, because those cards are a trap. So there you guys go. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you did, let me know why in the comment section below, and talk to me. Do you think it is a good idea to run cards that deal with bad hands but aren't necessarily good in good hands? Are there cards that do both? And also, subscribe for more deck discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See you guys.